heard whimpering sobs coming from the kitchen. I followed it and saw Pamela was holding a knife at Rhonda. At the beginning of my career, I taught English in a local high school. I had just gotten married and was one of the youngest teachers in that school. It was my first day, and I was going to my class when I saw two boys bullying a girl.
Stop it! Stop it!
She screamed so loud that everyone went quiet. Other teachers came out of their classes, students gathered in the corridor, and all eyes were on her. The boys who were bullying stepped back in fear. To take control of the situation, I rushed to them.
Boys, go to your classes now, and make sure you two see me with your parents after school.
They ran away. Everyone got back to their job, and I walked to my class. I started writing my name on the board to introduce myself to my first batch of students when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw that same girl walk into my class. She sat down on the last bench, and I continued with the class. The day went well. A few days later, when I had finally settled down with my new job and new place, a weird thing started happening. Someone left small notes stuck to my car windshield. Nothing was written on them, only a picture of a boy and a girl standing side by side holding hands. The boy had the same hair and clothes as mine, but the girl wore a wedding dress. No matter how weird the notes were, I brushed them off as a prank by a student. By the fifth note, I got a message. The sender of these notes wrote,
Why don't you notice me?
I quickly looked around. All the kids were leaving. Some were walking home in groups. Suddenly, my eyes spotted this big bushy tree on the opposite side of the street. The girl from the first day was standing there. She had this big smile on her face. Her eyes were wide open. It felt so creepy the way she was watching me. I realized she was the one sending me all these love notes. Damn, I think she developed a crush on me. I was a married man and wanted no trouble with a teenage girl. So, I curled the note into a ball, threw it on the gutter, and got in my car. The girl's smile faded as she watched me drive off. I didn't tell my wife because I thought she might misinterpret the situation. The next day, I took off and spent the entire day with my wife. We went to the club, danced, and got drunk. We had a wild night after that. The next day was a Sunday. I went to buy some groceries at the local market. My wife went along. We were picking up apples when I heard a woman call out to my wife.
Rhonda, how have you been? Hello, Mrs. Dempsey.
She introduced me to this woman who had happened to be the mayor's wife. I went to shake hands with her when that girl from school marched behind her.
You must be the new English teacher. Pamela said you helped her stand up to her bullies.
I awkwardly smiled, and the girl watched my wife from tip to toe with a blank face. My wife could sense the tension on my face, so I told the woman it was nothing huge, just my duty as a teacher.
Why didn't you come yesterday, Mr. Tamara?
As shocked as we all were by the question, my discomfort grew further.
I just need some rest. Thanks for asking, Pamela.
Will you be at school tomorrow?
Yes, I will.
She walked away with her mom, and my wife and I finished the rest of shopping. Once we got in the car, my wife asked what happened to that girl. I told her everything except for the love notes. She nodded her head and said that the girl was weird. She didn't like the way Pamela checked her out. The next day, I had just finished the class and was going to the teacher's room for lunch when I heard my name.
Mr. Tamara?
I turned around and the girl was standing right behind me, almost giving me a heart attack.
I brought cookies for you. I tried for the first time.
Thanks, but I can't take them, Pamela.
Why not? It's for you.
I don't like cookies. Thanks, anyway.
Her face shook down and she got quiet. I stood there awkwardly and then turned around to walk back.
Did your wife tell you to stay away from me?
What?
Why don't you understand?
What are you talking about?
You have to leave your wife. She's coming between us.
My patience drew the line there. I looked her in the eye and said in a strict tone,
I'm your teacher, Pamela. You better remember that or I will call your parents.
Her eyes burned in anger. She ground her teeth like a wolf, then left me alone. I made up my mind that today, once I get home, I will tell my wife about this psycho girl. But the principal held a meeting on an upcoming exam, so I had to stay a little late. Once I finally got off work, I rushed home. As I arrived on the front porch, I found the door half open. I entered the house, and it was in drop-dead silent.
Rhonda, I'm home.
I might have called out a little loud. Suddenly, I heard whimpering sobs coming from the kitchen. I followed it and saw Pamela was holding a knife at Rhonda, and she was barely trying not to cry. Our eyes met, and I realized the gravity of the situation. I started talking to Pamela.
Pamela, put down the knife.
Why? So you can ditch me for her?
Okay, I'll divorce her and be with you.
Will you?
I nodded my head up and down, saying,
Yes.
Pamela slowly backed off to come towards me. When she was close, I jumped to grab the knife away, and she panicked. I got stabbed in the shoulder. When the paramedics were taking me away on the stretcher, I heard Rhonda crying and Pamela ranting to the cops like a maniac.
He will live, right?
The lady cops grabbed her and started taking her away. I could hear her screams until the ambulance doors closed. She was kicking in the air, screaming at the top.
Mr. Tamara! I swear, I didn't mean to hurt you! Please! Don't hate me!
I was discharged after a month. I wanted to quit my job and shift to another place, but Rhonda stopped me. She told me that Pamela was sent to a juvenile mental institution and her family went with her. I still get nightmares where I see Pamela standing next to my bed, leaning over my face and saying,
Why don't you notice me?